And we're live. We are live.
Ace
I
just
mean-
released 2.6.
Hey.
Congratulations, Ace. If you watch this recorded.
Is all of the things released, like parser, everything?
No, the JSON schema now. No, where's the?
Okay.
Where's the? Wait, I lost one tab. Oh my
I
god!
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, do you see it? Because I don't.
Yes. Still missing the parser.
Yeah, because it needs to be JSON schema first released, and then we need to bump it.
Ah.
Yeah, and it's not yet released, but yeah, it's easy. It's 10 minutes and it's gonna be released, right?
Hopefully. That's the idea, right?
No comment.
I can't remember if I added the pulsar. Pulsar bindings for. Oh well. Did I do? Oh, I did. Nice. All right, let's just get started. Because I don't. We're already 6 past. All right, welcome everyone to another Spec 3.0 meeting. This time we have a rather short agenda, but that can quickly change, as it always does. So, does anyone have anything they want to add beforehand, before jumping into it?
I do, but I'll leave it up to the end. Otherwise, you will not get to do your agenda items.
They're quick
No.
ones, or at least one of them is.
I'm kidding. I'm not. I don't have it.
All right. Let me share my screen just so everyone can follow along. All right, so I have 2 things I want to bring up. So I'm not even sure that there's anything for the first one, but we're still missing one review from Vladimir. But it's been 2 weeks since anything happened. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to wait for, but it's hanging with you guys. And I did add the pulsar bindings as well, so it is up to date with everything.
So you have approvals from Lucas, myself, Sergio, and Dale. So you
Yes.
got 4 code owners to approve your repo, and you've been waiting for Vladimir to approve it. Since when? Again?
2 weeks.
/RTM.
Yeah, I always have a hard time figuring out when to do that, especially if I'm not a code owner myself. So it's
I mean, you got more than 3. So the minimum is 3, right? 3 approvals in the repo, right? Well, in this case, it's not minimum 3. I think it's not set up, but yeah, we honor it. Like it's 3. So, or we try to honor it. So, so you got more than 3 approvals, and you left some decent amount of time, like 2 weeks. I think it's good enough amount of time for someone to just jump into it. You pinged him how many times? This one?
I didn't ping anyone. I think it was Lucas that did. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, someone pinged him. So if he's not responsive for this specific E2, that's completely fine. Let's go ahead and merge it.
And it's not for
So
the
it-
master branch anyway, right? So
Yeah, exactly. It's not for the master branch. So
it's a
who
release
cares?
candidate. So we can always
Okay.
revert if there's a good argument.
Yeah. Exactly. You see,
Done.
you're being pragmatic now.
So is there any way that we can make it more clear for contributors when something can be merged?
I think not in this repo, but I think on the spec one, we have something written down there that you should get at least 3 approvals or something like that. It says something about it. And
So you added it as a setting in the repository.
yeah, and there's a setting in the repository, I think, or I don't remember how we did it in the end. Because
I think there's no
there's no, right? Because there was a problem, something like that.
yeah, it's related to bot basically. So
yeah, exactly.
if we would set a limit to 3, then the problem is with the bot, because bot cannot merge other PRs, because there would be
Right. Yeah.
And I quickly thought about adding 2 more bots.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't have enough images to represent them.
True.
So yeah, and then how much time do you let it pass until you hit the merge? I think that's gonna depend a lot in the type of pull request. If it's a big one, important one, or if it's just a stupid thing. If it's a stupid thing, just go ahead and merge it 1 week after, right? If you got enough approvals, just go ahead and merge it. And if it's a big one that it's going to master, and it's important one and so on, okay, you can wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you want. But yeah, I will not wait that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I wish that there are a point where we could definitively, like, when it's possible to merge a PR. To me, that would mean that it should just be merged immediately, or at least you shouldn't have to wait.
But that's the thing, right? Like, we're humans in the end, and everything is relative, right? So, and there's no easy way to actually put it there clearly for each case. So you really have to leverage your soft skills here and trying to be polite and respectful with the community. So, and you've been respectful. Come on, 2 weeks after last time you pinged people, or in this case, Lucas pinged people. I think that's more than enough. And on top of that, you got 4 co-donors out of 5, because I think we're 5. 4 out of 5 who approved it. And on top of that, it's going to release branch, not to master. So not everything is, or I don't think not everything should be coded into into the rules and everything. Like, it's
no, yeah, I get it. Yeah, but it's
yeah,
hard for a contributor that isn't a code owner to know when something is that fluent, right? So but yeah, it might just be that one of you code owners or a code owner explicitly state, well, we do this and then we merge it. So it's up to the code owners to set the tone of when something is okay to merge.
It's part of the game, man. Like, it might be hard for people to figure it out, but yeah, you're part of a community. Chat with the community, say,
yes,
I don't know if I should be merging this or not. And then someone will come to you. And like, it's part of it. Like, we're humans, we can communicate. So if you're not,
no, I'd rather not.
I know, but you should be able to communicate.
Yes.
So yeah, it's okay. Like, we don't have to code every single rule.
But there's also a technical explanation of how it works. Like, we added ready to merge option, so anyone can trigger release the merge. but it will not work if there are some blockers. So like in theory, like imagine you're a contributor that you don't attend meetings, you're not in Slack, you don't know us. So you shouldn't wait for us. You should just trigger RTM.
So
And
it would be okay for me to merge, for example, that PR right after getting the first one.
in my opinion, yes. And then it's our problem.
Okay.
The code owners, like how to prevent that you do it before we actually want you to do it. So in all the other repos, it's not a problem because this RTM is really depending on the settings in the GitHub. The only problem is this and the spec, where we know we want to have 3 reviewers, but in the settings we can restrict only 1. Yeah. So so basically it should be like you should just merge it, then we figure out how to prevent it in the future. And it's on the code owners. I think it should be then me, Fran, Vladimir, and Dale, and Sergio. We should meet and agree. Okay, then we should in JSON schema and spec we should always use do not merge label. And whenever we don't want someone to use RTM, that's why do not merge was also invented.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
But better, of course, be nice and ask.
Yes. All right. All right, moving on, unless someone has anything they want to add in the end. No? Okay. So one thing we have kind of been putting on the back burner for a while is what do we do about bindings? So it's been quite a while since this issue was raised, and it's not until now that it really becomes more apparent that we probably have to take a look at it. So with the Spec 3.0 release, how do we handle versioning of bindings when, for example, let's say that one of the Kafka bindings explicitly have to be have a major change. So you have to do something that breaks backwards compatibility. Then we would have to explicitly state that one binding is for one major version and another is for version 2, for example. So up until now, we don't have any consensus on what to do about bindings. It's just there, and it hasn't been part of the validation rules either. So it's been kind of like it's just there. So I wanted to bring up and ask how much we should look into these bindings for Spec 3.0 and how to handle it.
But you mean in this case of versioning, right?
Of versioning, but we also need to take a look at each binding, right? Because how do we know that a binding fits for a major version change in the spec itself? How do you know that it's still compatible or makes sense?
But we still have operation, we still have server, we still have message. And what was the other one? Channel.
But we have a change of perspective. For instance, the publish, subscribes, and receive. So this might be a problem. Can be a problem. I don't know. I will have to check, especially on the HTTP one. Probably, I haven't checked, but might be a problem to look at. But in my opinion, like what I will do is, since we don't maintain multiple versions at the same time, so we will major versions at the same time. So we're not going to maintain 2 anymore. We're just going to leave it there, but we're not going to keep developing version 2. I think it's as easy as marking a line on the binding, like up until here, up until 0.2 version of the binding, it's for version 2 of the spec, and from there on is for version 3 of the spec, right? So whatever we add on the binding might or might not make sense on version 2. But I want this feature on version 2. I'm sorry, you had to migrate to version 3. That's what I will do. because we don't maintain multiple versions of the same major versions at the same time, right? So then I will just select up until here is version 2, from there on it's version 3. Up until here is version 3, from there on is version 4. You know, like I'll continue like this. And we can make it clear on each of the bindings, for instance. For in each of the bindings, we can just select this is the last version for version 2, and for version 3, there's another one. But that also triggers or raises the question that we don't maintain multiple bindings versions, right? I think we do on JSON schema definitions, I think, or we were planning to do it. I recall that we want to have.
I mean, the versions has to be there regardless, right? So whenever you change something, you would have to manually add like duplicate of the old one and then add that to the spec, etc. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's having a list of all the versions of a specific bindings, you know, like, and to see how it has been evolving, for instance. Or I want to go back one version on the binding. I think JSON schema definitions were having something like that, if I recall correctly, but yeah, I'll have to check.
For bindings, you mean?
For bindings, yeah.
We had only one, only latest version was
the latest version, I think. But I think somewhere I recall this being discussed. Because or no, it's just for the latest. Yeah. So what we had is that at Glee, we had a need, which was that we check if one binding is of version 1 or 0.2, which one, or
is it just lagging for me, or?
And depending on which version it is, am I lagging?
Lagging
myself only?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a check. Give me a sec. I'm gonna remove HD. Oh, I'm not using HD quality. Shit. And I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna remove my face, which is even better. So yeah, no problem with video anymore. I hope it helps with the connection. So yeah, on Glee, we needed to have the version of the binding on the JSON schema for that, because they were breaking changes from one version to another, and yeah, but that's it. But we don't get the history of, or I think no, we needed it. Yeah, no, we needed it. So we had to validate the binding information that we get on Glee for whatever reason. I can't remember. I'll have to check. And we had to have 2 JSON schemas at the very least, one for version 0.1, another one for 0.2. So yeah, I'll search for it. But yeah, anyway, the way it is right now, to me, is as easy as saying that version 2 is up until here, and version 3 is from there on. That's it. And I will not complicate life, especially because it's still on 0 point something versions. So we expect this to be continuously broken. So yeah.
And this is something we have to, at least in the current setup, it's something we have to do in the readmes, because the spec files themselves, like the validation rules for the bindings, has no information about, or has no constraint that these only works for an async API 2.0 or 3.0. It doesn't have that constraint in itself, as like it's only validating the bindings themselves, and it's not until it's actually used. Now I can't remember where it is, but somewhere here. It's not until that it's actually used in one of the versions that we explicitly state that this can be the latest binding, or this is part of one specific version of async API. But yeah, is there any task that we need to perform before releasing version 3 regarding the bindings that we have to take a look at? Or do we have to create an issue for it? Or
we
do we
do-
just say, we just see what happens?
No, I mean, what I will do is I will just for sure create that issue, so we can have this discussion outside the meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
But other than that, the only thing that I will do is just leave in this note in each of the bindings that I'm not sure if I will do it in each of the bindings, but I will review the bindings and make sure they make sense on version 3. If they make sense, I will not add anything now because bindings are on experimental stage yet, so I will not add anything yet. And for and if we get something like, I don't know, the HTTP binding, it's a problem, then we leave a message on the HTTP binding and not the rest. And we leave a message saying what I just said, like version 2 is up until here, version 3 is from there. That's it.
And
that's what I will do.
okay. And do we have a constraint that those bindings have to be? So let's say that the HTTP bindings need to change. Do we have a constraint from a version 3 perspective that the bindings has to change before we can release version 3? Or are we saying like, then the version 3 bindings just comes at some point?
We can change it before, because I think the change is going to be really a small one, probably a change in perspective, and that's it. That's the only thing that can come to my mind right now. The rest would be useful. But yeah, maybe actually it makes more sense now than before. Yeah.
But what I'm referring to is, do we have to reach that consensus and make that change before the end of February?
I don't think that's a new feature. I think that's a fix of the spec, right? We're fixing the spec here and there, so we're not introducing a new feature. We're just making it work. The same way as if we find mistakes in the spec from here until June, we will be fixing them. What we agreed is not introducing new feature, right? But that's not the feature.
That is true.
So yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna create an issue in the for the binding repository to review all of the bindings for version 3, and then I'm gonna add an issue about adding a node in the bindings repository for specifically stating this compatibility thing for whatever we need to display there, right? Did I get that right? No?
I didn't get the second sentence you said. Like, so I get like, so definitely we need an issue that the review is needed. We have to ping all the code owners for a specific binding, but it would be definitely good if we can provide them with some overview, like a key points they should have a look at, because many of the code owners, they're just focused on the binding. They're not aware of where 3.0 is going. But the other part, what did you mean?
So it was about adding a node in the bindings README files regarding what bindings are compatible with which major version of the spec.
Yeah, but I would also leave it for the issue in the end. Like, it's not a we're not making here any decision, and it's a kind of decision.
Oh yeah, it was meant for an issue that should raise the awareness.
Yeah. We need an issue, but maybe in the same, like because in this issue for the review, you'll ping all the code owners so they can already share an opinion what they think. Because because I on my own, like I'm struggling. Imagine solution without actually knowing that it's needed. The solution itself, like maybe there will be no changes, and
Yeah.
it's but we still of course need a node that that the current binding in this current version is compatible with
Correct.
2 and 3. But I'm not convinced, because I just look now on the Kafka and it's 0.4, right? And it's at the moment we have an approach with bindings that it works with any minor release, right? So any to 1, to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5, we don't restrict. So basically we have a rule that you can use it in any minor version, 2 point something. And so like 2.4, and now let's say 3.0 comes in, and there's something that has to be fixed in the Kafka binding. Then, okay, in Kafka binding, you can say since version 0.5, it works only with 3.0, but it's specific for Kafka binding, in my opinion. It's not like a line for all the bindings. Like, so I'm not sure if we should apply the rule by default to all the bindings or only the bindings that needed to be fixed. And then if binding owner reviews and says, okay, there's no changes, then like we just add a note that the binding should be compatible with minor versions of 2 point and 3 point.
Yeah, I guess we'll see, right, how well it plays together. Should I add those issues or that issue before or after we are done, or before or after the freeze? Because we kind of have to know which changes are there in order to give feedback to the binding owners about which changes might affect the bindings, right? We have some already, of course, and we can probably maybe already now know which bind or which changes can affect them, but it's more, should I wait to create the issue until the end of the month or just do it now? Especially if I ping them.
As soon as possible, like the core changes are known, right? They're already in the release candidate.
Yeah, it's
The
only
only-
the request reply that's kind of.
Yeah, but the request reply, I don't think it was in any binding. Nobody tried to, like, we always tried to block people from workarounding spec in the binding. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope there is none. What can be?
That's the thing, yeah. All right, so I'll just
AMQP. There's a reply field.
I think I'm gonna wait until we are done with request reply and that feature has, or at least the initial feature has been merged. I think I'm gonna wait for that until creating the, because that's one of the changes that might affect it. So without having that in place, it's gonna be hard to notify or explain to the code owners that it might affect it, right?
But in any case, I wouldn't be worried about the freeze. I wouldn't be worried about it because, yeah, this is not introducing any new feature. So we should be able to do it. We should be able to fix stuff after the freeze.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's not about. It's just a question of when should I create this issue in the bindings repository.
Yeah, the issue as soon as possible. So and then we don't have to.
But as soon as possible could be at the end of the month, but it could also be right now. So
It can be, yeah. What I mean is right
interpretation,
now.
right?
You can, if you want to do it right now or right after the call, just do it now. But what I mean is exactly that. Is as soon as possible, right after the call, if you want.
And
But
my
that doesn't mean
follow-up
that we're
question
gonna
was,
prioritize it now. So yeah.
No, of course not. But my follow-up question is, do we have enough information now to let the code owners of the bindings like explicitly state what changes might affect their bindings and which changes they should look out for? Because since
No,
none of
we
the
don't.
changes are since none of the changes, what's it called, like are finalized, it's hard to explicitly state that you should look into this, but later down the line when it's done. So
Well,
it's like,
but I mean,
maybe just wait.
that's my point. You created today, but we don't have to address it today. So you created today, so we don't forget about it. So we take it into account, right? And but we can start addressing it after we freeze the SNKP 3. And but in any case, there are things that we know that they're gonna make it to version 3, right? So most of it we know already. It's stable. It's I mean stable. It makes sense, or it looks like it makes sense. So we know that we're gonna have a change in the perspective. We know that we're gonna have request reply somehow. We don't know yet exactly the details, but you can start thinking, oh, in the case that we have request reply, is it gonna have conflict somehow? Cool. So then I might want to, as a code owner, then I might want to put a note or reminder for me here that after the freeze, after request reply is merged and everything is frozen already, I'll review it. So that's what I will do. And yeah, that's why I said like create it as soon as possible so we don't forget, but we don't have to address it now. We don't have to ping every code owner now.
That was my next. Yeah, that was my next thing. I'm gonna just create a kind of draft PR and then ping them later down the line when it's finalized all the changes. Okay, do that. All right, that was what I had for today. Unless someone has something they want to add before. Right?
Yeah.
No.
I have one. Schema bindings. I just had a. So when you showed the schema, I realized that I think we have problem there, right? Because we, and it's something that Fran also mentioned, like in Glee, he had to have both schemas of both versions of probably Kafka binding. But we only have latest in the schema, which means that no, we have only latest.
We have all the versions that are compatible with that major version of async API, and then one of them is of course marked as the latest one. That's the newest one, so that's the default value, right? But all the others are explicitly stated that they are only matched against whenever the binding version property is specifically set for themselves. Otherwise, they are not validated.
So you're saying that in your pull request to add validation of binding schema for Kafka, there are 4 different schemas for 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 version of the Kafka binding.
Let me check.
Because we didn't have it in the binding repo. That's why I'm asking. We had only the latest always. And the enum was always having the latest.
Kafka there. So I actually only have version
1, the last
0.1 and version 0.3. I didn't have anything else.
Zero 0.1 and 3, and because like even numbers or
that was just the only ones that were
we did for fun
present. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a look at that, I think. Yeah. When did that change? Huh?
When what changed?
The Kafka bindings. I could have swore that. Oh well. I have no idea which bindings I was looking at then. Okay, I'm gonna take a look at that as well.
So other than that, so now my question is, do we have anything on the pipeline that's still missing for version 3 and that we want to make it part of version 3? Because I
yeah,
don't.
I wanted to ask this. So, but first of all, like, because I was out a bit, there's no objection from the community, so we do the freeze, right? Okay, and the freeze is end of March.
Good point. No, wait. So did we agree on that in the end? I left my comment on the issue saying that I agree, but I don't know if we got any further comments.
That was what Lucas said, like there's no objections.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
lazy consensus. Like if you don't object, it means you agree. Yeah.
Okay. I agreed with that. You don't object. So okay.
But
So
we,
yeah,
I mean, we had an
someone else.
issue. It was communicated pretty clearly on different social media. So release schedule, yeah, the issue. The last comment is from Jesse. Hey, Jesse. You there?
Hello, I'm here. Yes.
Yeah. So you also agree with March 1, but you mentioned the
Yeah, and I think that may be a mistaken comment because it looks like there's another proposal that deals with, we're very interested in multi-schema format support. And so that one doesn't look like it moved forward, but it looks like another proposal that's very similar for multi-format support did move forward. Just reading through it. So as long as there's some addressing of, especially like XML schema, I think I'm fine with the code freeze. And it looks like there was. I can't see the exact image or exact issue rather that handled that, but it looked like that there was now.
Yeah, so regarding it's the issue about allowing non-JSON standards as payloads, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So the status with that is it will not be included as part of version 3, but it is just a feature change.
Okay.
So going forward, it's just a change of, at least that's the idea, because we don't have the underlying standard for it regarding references. So yeah. And we don't have the tools for it, which is another problem. So yeah, that's gonna be a longer discussion for a feature in the future. Hopefully, I'm not gonna say a timeline because I always fuck that up. Eventually.
All right. Well, let me pull up. The what I was looking at.
Do you want to
there's
share
something
screen?
because there was something in RF. Let me find it first, and if I find it, then I'll share my screen. So it looks proposal to allow defining schema format other than default one, 622.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I thought.
Sorry, go.
That's what I thought was, and because it's reached RFC2, that would be available within the, it would make the code freeze essentially. And potentially be included in B3.
Yeah, I did ask Maciek for a comment on it, or at least a status update, like where yeah, just in general a status update on the issue, but I haven't gotten it yet.
But it's possible that this would be included in B3, right? Because it would meet the code freeze requirements and everything, and it would address, potentially you could use this to put an XML schema in there. Most of the examples are Avro, but it looks like you can reference out to a different.
So the problem with his issue or pull request is that he bundles two features together. He bundles he bundles the thing about having schemas and schema format so you can define it in the component section. So you can have, so it doesn't have to just be the default schema format that you can define in the component section, but you can have multiple reusability across all kinds of payloads, Avro or whatever else. But he also bundles together that it should be possible to reference, for example, protobuf schemas or XML schemas. And that's where it's going to be a bit of a problem, because we don't have a standard that allows us to do that.
Right, right.
It doesn't exist at the moment.
And at least within the, you know, the $ ref sort of thing doesn't work, right? Doing this has been sort of shot down repeatedly in the GitHub as far as I can read. Yeah, which I
Yeah.
totally agree with. Sort of, you know, taking over a very standard way of doing things. It doesn't make sense, and you know, I agree with that.
I mean, we would love to, because if we can just say we use this standard for referencing schemas, perfect, use it. The problem is that it doesn't exist, or at least I can't find it. So I would not be wrong, but I can't find it.
Totally, and I've been down the same road, so I agree that there isn't something, and it certainly seems like Open API struggles with this as well. I mean, it seems like we go round and round and round, and the answer maybe is just have this be our own named field rather than, you know, $ref.
Yeah, we definitely have conversations about this also in a JSON schema. I can link you something. Give me 2 seconds. So even though that they don't have this problem of referencing non-JSON standards, it's still they still want to standardize how, or create a replacement for this JSON reference standard that we use.
Interesting.
And it's all about finding a consensus of what's, like, can we use one of their proposals? Should we do our own kind of standard? It's still up in the air at the moment. And
Makes sense.
And the problem, well, it's not a problem. It's just a, what's it called? Because we have tooling, we can of course say that this isn't supported from a tooling standpoint from the beginning, but eventually we would have to create our own reference tooling to handle all of these different reference scenarios. And that's kind of the main problem, at least from a tooling standpoint.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's tough because I mean, it's a pretty crucial functionality, but it's helpful for me to understand what's in, what's out, in terms of that. And you guys do think, and I think that's right, that it's not like necessarily a breaking change, because at this point, I mean, sorry, I'll share my screen again. So you guys are confident to add in sort of this custom schema thing is not a breaking change that we would need to have another major version for.
Actually, I have totally different opinion. I think we're mixing 2 different topics here.
Okay.
So there are 2 things: protobuf, XML, and stuff, and that's about referencing.
Yep.
And the custom schema, it's different. Custom schema, it's that you just want to say what schema. Like you can say that you have XML, it's just not going to work. But I mean, you can define any schema format you want, and now it's on the message level. And but you just can't have a reference to some nested part of the XML, for example, data point or whatever is the XML naming. And that's one topic. And that's, I don't think enabling XML would be a breaking change. I don't think it would be, because it's, as we also mentioned here, that we can just come up with alternative $reference field, like $whatever, or whatever name of the field that would be custom just for XML. And that, I don't think it will be a breaking change. It's just another field that you can use in Exchange. But there is another problem with schema format, and that's what was actually, not sure who was sharing the screen. You, Jonas?
That was me. I'll
you. Can you share?
Sure.
Yeah, and this one actually, this proposal from Maciej. So there are many different proposals involved in one proposal, but that's what you're showing. It's actually the problem is that was his proposal. So the current problem is that if you don't like, maybe, can I share my screen maybe?
Yeah, totally. Go for it.
And that's actually a breaking change, I think. Desktop 2. Wait, I zoomed way too much. Oh yeah. So currently, when you, for example, have Avro, right? You can have reference to some external Avro file, and it's gonna work, right? Would be the reference. But the thing is that you can't, at the moment, reference to components.
If you use Avro, for example.
Yeah. So basically, this document, even though, in my opinion, it looks fine, it
Mhm.
doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's why in the too many tabs related to release. Wait, I need to find chat. Where is chat? Wait. Yeah, here in the schedule you had this issue mentioned. Oh yeah. So here in this issue that you linked, we're discussing like this XML referencing, etc. Now there's this other one. Can you share me, send me the link of the one that you were showing, Jesse?
Yep, one sec.
Don't remember what was the.
Yeah, just put it in the chat.
And it was that, right? Yeah. So basically, the idea of, and that's why this pull request from Maciej, it's about extending object, schema object, because schema object is in components, right? And the thing about schema object is that it's purely just a schema, right? So there's so in the schema you can just put the name of the schema and the schema. And his proposal was that, like, to overcome this issue that you cannot use Avro in the components, was to have a kind of custom schema. So inside payload, you don't define the schema directly, but you have an object where you can specify the format and the schema. So the format is no longer defined on the message level, but inside the payload. So that's, at least to my understanding, this is the pull request about. This is the solution, and it was like mainly driven by one of the issues from the community were actually from Michael from Solus, and it was mainly related to this this problem that in the message you say Avro, but you don't want to have your schema inlined in the payload. You don't want to have it in the separate file. You want to have it in the components. And this basically doesn't work.
Got it.
But when I was writing this message, I actually thought that maybe it's just a bug in the parser, not really technical problem, but that's different thing. And this is, if this is not a problem, if that's not just a bug with the parser, but actually something more complicated, like for example, what was proposed by Maciej, then this will introduce a breaking change, because it's a change in the object. But of course, we can always have a tuple, right? So we can have we can say that schema can be just a schema, or schema object can contain also an object that contains information about schema format. So in the end, of course, it all depends how we approach it. But that I think are totally two different separate things. Like problem with that currently in the spec, you can use only JSON schema in components schema object. And the other one is XML protobuf. XML protobuf not breaking change, in my opinion, can be done in 3.1, 3.2. But this one, depending on the reason why it doesn't work, might be a breaking change. And yeah, I agree. We should maybe try to put more attention to it and drive this discussion in the other issue to see what's the reason and what's the possible solution.
Yeah, I guess that would be that. I would concur with that. And then maybe in the discussion of that, we also have some sort of leads into solving, the way we address one issue impacts the way that we address the other one,
So-
issue.
Jesse, so what how do you
If you can understand the question,
how many
I'm-
formats are you using? Like is it JSON schema? Sorry, I lost you for a sec.
No, but we didn't lose you. Like you were paused, but the whole message was then sent in like one shot. Like blah, 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 blah.
Oh shit! So I was saying that for Jesse. So the question was for Jesse. Like how many schema formats do you know that your customers are using? Customers of Solas. It's JSON schema, Avro, XML, maybe XSD instead of XML. Protobuf.
Yeah, I mean,
What else?
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, DT like XSD is like the major one, but I mean, it does feel like we need to have some sort of generic solution for it. But I would say that 90% of what we see right now is demand for XML. Events coming out of SAP are still formatted in XML, so that's pretty important for what we deal with. But again, I don't think that we should solve it only for XML, but more generally, because I do think that those cases are not rare.
Because my thought here is that maybe we don't have to find a generic solution for all the cases to work. So even though it might look like the ideal solution, but given that it's a complex situation, maybe what we can have under components is something. Okay, I'll stop. I will
Sure.
stop now.
Yes, I
I'll
agree.
Stop now. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop sharing my video today. My internet connection is not good. So I was saying that maybe we can have schemas under components just for JSON schemas for the default ones if you want, and under components we can have XSD schemas and protobuf schemas as different keys, and then it will be just a matter of the parser checking on the payload when we reference something from the components. We will check if it's referencing a JSON schema or a protobuf schema or an XSD schema, and this way we can make differentiation between the three. And we don't have to support more because I never hear anything about any other format. Avro is the only one, but Avro is JSON, so Avro is not a problem. Avro will be easily doable. We can use $ref inside Avro as well, so that's completely fine. So Avro is not really a problem. We can still have another section, Avro schemas, inside components, and that's it. We list all the possible schema formats that we support, which are 4 in this case. And that's it. Maybe in the next major version, we find a cool solution that works for all of them without having to separate them into different keys. But yeah, like just an idea that we probably don't have to shoot them all.
Yeah, I mean, but then
right?
you start getting into like protobuf. To me, I mean, I guess I don't. You say you have all these different key for XML, different key for I would say protobuf is probably coming on second. But it seems like if you could just have like one key for the what this thing is, this format, and one thing for the definition of that format, whether that be an XSD or, a protocol buffer definition, like that seems to solve the issue without, creating the situation where we're going to get endless pull requests for the latest format that comes down the line.
Jesse, do you think that you're gonna see people inlining XML and protobuf syntax
was
in
my
JSON?
That was my next question, actually. Like, we don't have to support
perfect.
inlining.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, right? Maybe you have a link. Then you get into sort of like, you have three fields, like you have a schema format field, and then you've got like an outside reference field that's not $ref, but something that we come up with on our own. And then you've got like the inlined plain text schema of, whether that's an XSD or a protobuf definition or something like that.
Yeah, because it has to be in string format or
Right,
a
it's
JSON
totally.
variant, right? So it's,
Yeah, I think it's stream format because, porting XML over to JSON is always, it's brutal. So.
So the thing here is that I don't think anyone in their right mind will use XSD directly inside the YAML or JSON document, right? Because that would be a nightmare to edit. But
you'd be surprised, Fran.
yeah. No, I know. But the thing is that anyway, we should be supporting inlining, because even though you're probably using another file where you have the XSD file or the protobuf. At some point, you might want to bundle things.
Right, you just want to get one file off to your person. Yeah.
So you might want to bundle things into one file and then fit it into some of the tools or services that you're using. And in this case, you need it to be inlined and not referencing any other file. So, but yeah, like inlining is not really a problem, because the only problem is that, yeah, it's a pain to edit manually. But yeah, we just, I mean, the tools should be clear about it, like, right? Like, you can link it. Don't edit files inside this field here. You don't have to. You can love yourself, but if you want to still export it, you can export it as a single file, and that's preferable. If someone wants to avoid these recommendations and inline things themselves and edit things there, that's their problem. But yeah, and the reason I was saying this is because in each of the components section, protobuf schemas, other schemas, and all of that, we can use different referencing models as well, right? For each of the schema formats. So inside protobuf schemas, we could be using something custom that will be give me the URL of the schema. What is it? If it's a file on my system, it's somewhere else. And another format that will be allowing you to reference a specific message inside the protobuf file. And messages can be nested. So inside specific message inside another message in a specific field or whatever it's needed there. And that's for protobuf. And for XSD will be completely different, probably. Maybe not so different, but instead of referencing with $ref or with our own way of doing it, we can use XPath, for instance, which is standard for that. So we can use XPath for XML referencing. And that's my point. Like, we don't have to use a single solution for all, at least not in the beginning, because it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, right? But if we do it like this, we're already providing value, right? We're already providing value to users that will be able to use protobuf, XSD, and everything else inside async API. Maybe not in an elegant way, but who cares about being elegant?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about elegance, but I do care about tech debt. Like, if we do it this way, then, you know, when it comes to when we do it for real and think about it, then people have to radically change both their, you know, their tooling, both the import and export sides. So.
That's true, but that's
One more
only
minute.
assuming that we find assuming that we find a way to to unify all the formats, which is honestly, I don't think it's going to happen ever.
But friend,
nice.
it's not so much to unify all the things, it's to give you the option of specifying it later down the line, for example. So async API can say for XML file or XML formats, you can use XPath, for example.
Yeah.
But it's just we need the underlying standard to support that customization.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like, you know, it's always going to be
underline. Sorry.
Everything that you've talked about, Bran. You know, I totally agree that there's always going to be little quirks, but it sounds like, and I think we actually had an issue open with this that I just didn't pursue long. Like, what we want is, to me, is like a place where you can specify what this thing is, what the format is. A place where you can have a reference to an external file if you want. A place where you can have the entire schema inlined if you want. Then also some sort of pointer, whether that be xref or, you know, a protobuf pointer to, you know, sort of a subsection of that particular of that schema. And it seems like that would cover 80% of what we're asking for here and provide a lot of value without having the sort of proliferation of specialized fields for every schema that comes along.
I think I'm gonna, for the, because we're running out of time, I think I'm gonna create a specific call just for that discussion. Maybe not in the next following weeks, but just to move that issue along or proposal along, because it's gonna be a very, very complex discussion with many different what's it called, like many different
facets,
branches, yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's a good idea, Jones.
I think I'm gonna do that. And for Magic's proposal with allowing schemas within components, I think I'm gonna ping him again to get his opinion on his, or at least his status and what's needed, and we can take it from there.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. And I'm sorry I pushed this meeting over, so I apologize for that. But I do think it's a good topic to discuss.
Yeah, this is what these calls are for. So no worries.
Yep. Thanks. All right. Any final remarks before ending the call?
I just want to say that I commit myself to push Fran and others to comment further on this schema format issue that I mentioned when sharing screen, to clarify if it's critical for 3.0 or not.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I look forward to seeing how you accomplish that goal.
Thank you.
What techniques you have for extracting your imposing your will on people?
I'm just annoying. That's
perfect. I like it. All right, guys, I gotta drop, but it's been fun, and I'm looking forward to continuing later. Thanks, man.
Yeah, see you all next time. Thanks for joining, and
bye-bye.
Take care.